Hi everyone, Paolo here. Welcome back to the channel where I make how-to videos from Mac tips, backend, Swift, Salesforce, and game development. Time to share what I've learned, and I'm back with another Unreal Engine tutorial. In this video, we're going to learn how to set up version control with your existing Unreal Engine project using Git LFS using Azure Repos. In this tutorial, I'll briefly cover Git LFS and how to install it, where to sign up for Azure Devops, and then create a new project on Azure Devops. Then we're going to add version control to an existing Unreal Engine project and cover which is the right type of authentication to use for Git LFS and a bit of troubleshooting so that we could push our changes to the Azure repo. Let's get into it. Alright, so if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So what is Git LFS? So Git LFS is an extension of Git that provides data that describes the large files in a commit to your repo. It stores the binary file in a separate remote storage as shown here in this diagram. So for the Mac, there are several ways you could install this. You could download the installer, or you could use Homebrew or Mac ports. In Windows, you could do the same, so download the installer. So for this purpose, I'm going to use Homebrew. If you don't have Homebrew installed, you could go check out this video that covers installing Homebrew in detail. So if I just copy that to my terminal here and hit the enter key, this would install Git LFS on my machine. And you could use this for a global setting or just use it on a per project setting. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to use it on per project setting. Cool. So next is you need to get Azure Repo. So if you visit azure.microsoft.com, you could go ahead and sign up for Azure for free. So why not use GitHub? So GitHub is also owned by Microsoft, but with Azure Devops, they offer the Git LFS storage for free. Unlike on GitHub, it has a certain limit and it could be costly if you go over that limit. So sign up for Azure Devops, create an organization. Once you create an organization, you'll eventually end up in something like this. So here I have Azure Devops open. If I check out the URL, dev.azure.com plus the organization that you created. So here you could go ahead and create a new project. So I'm going to call this YouTube LFS demo. Cool. It would create all these other features for you. So Azure DevOps is a bunch of tools that you could use for managing your project. So for this purpose, we're only going to tackle the Azure repo. So if I open the Azure repos here, this is the part where we would host this project, whatever project we have, like for example, Unreal Engine, into the remote server. So we're going to host it on this repo. Cool. So the next step we're going to do is, first, let's open up an existing Unreal Engine project. So I have this existing Unreal Engine project here. And if I go to Tools and under Tools, click on Connect to Revision Control, I'll get this message. So this pop-up is asking me for a provider. So there are several versions. You could use Git, Subversion, or Perforce. So for this tutorial, we're going to use Git. And this one is asking for the Git path. So right now, if you check some of these options here, there's a tick box to add Git attributes to enable Git LFS, but it's not enabled. So we need to specify the correct path that has the Git LFS installed because it's an extension. So if I say on my command line here, which Git, it's going to tell me the Git that I'm currently running is found on this path. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it here. And just by doing that, oops, I untick the README, it would enable the Git attributes to enable Git LFS. So I'm gonna click on that and I'm gonna hit initialize project. But before I do that, I'm gonna open that particular project and show you what it's gonna do. So I'm gonna alright, so when I hit initialize with Git, let me do that again. Initialize with Git, and then accept settings. If I open up that Finder with that project, you would see it created a Git hidden files for me, a .git folder, a Git attribute, and a Git ignore. So I'm just gonna quickly open this in an editor. I'm using VX Code just to show you what those files are. So yes, accept the author. So if I look at the git ignore, Unreal Engine through that initialization created this files to be ignored for version control. So all this won't be checked in when you're doing version control. And if I go on the git attributes, this is saying that the content folder would all be managed to Git LFS. So basically, this folder, which would contain all our assets, would be stored on Git LFS. So now that we have this, if I open up the terminal from here and say git status, you would see on a Mac, sometimes it creates this additional metadata for storing. So I don't want to include this in when I'm doing version control. So I'm gonna add this on the git ignore. So when I do that and I do another git status, it won't show the DS anymore. It's just gonna show that the git ignore was modified. So here I'm just gonna say git add the git ignore, and git status would tell me it's ready to be committed. So I'm just gonna say git commit added git ignore. Cool. Now there you have it. So right now the version control is just working locally. So nothing has been pushed to the remote server. So how do we push it to the remote server? So let's go back to Azure Devops here under repo. So if you're cloning, this is the command you're going to use. But if you're pushing, this is the command that you're going to use. As you can see here, there's a command that we could copy. It's adding to the remote. We're adding the remote as an origin, and this is the URL. And then we're pushing it. So if I copy this and go back here and paste that here. By the way, you could paste it here or you could paste it on the terminal as long as you're in the same directory as the Unreal Engine project. So I'm just gonna do it here because I already have it open, and hit enter. And right now it's gonna ask you to enter a password. We don't want that. We don't want to be entering a password every time we're pushing. So if I do that on here, on the terminal here, and do the same, it's gonna prompt for a password. So we don't want that. So to get around this, it is because, and the reason why we're using HTTPS and not SSH is because Azure DevOps only support HTTPS for Git LFS. You can't use it with an SSH authentication protocol. So to get around this, you need another tool which is called Git Credential Manager. So this Git Credential Manager would allow you to connect your to your account from Git, and this is the tool that we will use. And here under Mac OS and Linux, there's instructions here on how to get Git Credential Manager. So the recommendation here is to use Homebrew as well. So if I click on this, it's going to direct me to the page where I could install it. So for Homebrew, I just need to copy this command, git brew install cast git credential. So I'm going back here to my terminal. I'm going to paste that. And this time it's asking for my admin password. So this is for Homebrew because it's installing it as a cast. So go ahead, install that, and now you should get that installed in your system. To verify if it's installed, go to brew lists, and you would see under cast, I have Git Credential Manager. Cool. Now, if I copy the same command that I did here for HTTPS and hit enter, it's going to complain remote already added because I already added it. But you could see it's trying to upload it now because I already did this a while back. But if you didn't, if it's the first time you connect, it would prompt you to with your login on a separate flow for Windows. So you just need to sign in with your Azure DevOps, and then that would authenticate that session. And this would allow this to basically start uploading or pushing your changes to the remote server. So this would take some time because I think this project is about 400 MB. So it's going to push it to the remote server, and all those content files would be stored on the Git LFS, so you don't have to worry about that. Everything would be managed by Azure. Cool. So I'll resume once the upload is complete, and I'll show you what it looks like on Azure DevOps. Alright, so the upload is done. Something to note here, I got this error because I already run the same command for adding the origin, so it's just gonna complain error, remote origin already exists. And there's a new feature for locking support. So this is just basically locking those files so other people on your team that start pushing changes to the same file won't be able to update it. So this is for locking support. I'll drop a link on here for the documentation for file locking because it covers a little bit more details. But now if I go to Azure DevOps here and refresh this, you can see I have my files in version control on Azure DevOps, and I could push and pull from here. And also feel free to explore the other features of Azure DevOps. So you could go here, go to the boards, and track your project for doing a to-do list here. You could do that, assign it to teams and all of that. So hope you like this tutorial. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bye for now.